All right, it is Tuesday, the 18th of August. It is podcast number 5, the Sick Bush podcast. Right now, Kelly and I are talking to Trevor and Natalie. Hello, guys.
Hi, Ty and Kelly.
What's going on, guys?
Nothing, man. Well, you guys are new parents. Little
Yes.
Cal was brought into this world exactly a week ago.
Yeah.
And this podcast is kind of dedicated to you guys, but also to him. And we wanted to kind of get a little bit more info about maybe the night leading up to the birth, the experiences you guys had while in the hospital, and then I think you've had him at home for like 3 days now?
Yeah, we got home on
Last
Thursday.
So we've been home for a few days.
Yeah.
Five days or so. That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to be home.
So, I believe on was it Tuesday morning when you started to go into labor, or was it Wednesday morning? It was Tuesday morning, right?
Tuesday morning. He was born on Tuesday, the 11th. So how it happened was, it's Monday evening, really. Probably not Monday evening for you, because you would have been asleep like 7 hours previous. But it was about like 11:45, 11:50, and we were watching Jerry Maguire, because neither of us had ever seen Jerry Maguire. And honestly,
I've never seen that movie either.
I mean, I'm not telling you to go run out and see it. It was fine.
It was good. It was like a little cute movie, and there was a little boy in it, and I don't know. It was
There
cute.
was a little boy in it. He was from that one movie.
Simon Birch.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
My mom has Jerry Maguire and has had it since I can remember on DVD.
Yeah.
I never was able to just be like, you know what, it's a Jerry Maguire kind of night. I never thought that.
I don't think we thought that either, honestly.
We weren't really sure what kind of movie it was, but it had Tom Cruise on it, and it was, Netflix, and
Old Tom Cruise,
we were
trying to
ready
redeem
watch.
himself from Scientology.
Basically, we were staying up way too late for people that were about to have a child.
I think the bottom line was, we were a little nervous about the whole process, and just kind of like, I don't know, you just got to fill the gap with something. Like, we watched a lot of movies the days leading up to the pregnancy, because we knew that both her sister and her mother had all of their children early, and it tends to be sort of a genetic thing. So, I mean, we were like expecting the baby any day, and I don't know, it's tough just to sit around and talk. I mean, you guys know, it's when you spend that much time with somebody, it's like, what do you talk about the baby all the time, and then I don't know, It's just kind of like this anticipation. So we were just kind of searching for stuff to watch, and we happened to find that we were watching it, and then finished, and I was like doing laundry and stuff. I had my collared shirts like all over the place drying, because our dryer sucks. And Nat went in to go to the bathroom, and
I went to the bathroom and went to wipe myself, and there was a gush of water. I was like, wait a minute, I already peed. Like, that was weird. Lucky for us that it was, over the toilet. It's kind of funny, because I talked to Ty on his birthday, and he was like, so your water's going to break, and you're just going to go into labor? I was like, no. Only 20% of people, their water breaks first. That's not going to be me. And only 10% have like a gush. So, but yeah, no, that was me.
So, Nat, that's the first thing I thought of when Trev said that your water broke when you were at home. I was like, yeah, she freaking told me that is so rare.
I think it was wishful thinking. I don't know. I had like this whole idea of how the labor was going to go, and it didn't go that way.
Did she? Well, it didn't go so, out of control, but it definitely, I think, it's what they say about best made plans, I mean, they always get foiled by something.
Yeah.
There's always something that
Sure.
changes or goes wrong.
But I assumed I'd get to labor a little bit at home, and
that
we
did
would go
not
to
happen.
the hospital when our contractions were close together. But when your water breaks, they want you to go in right away.
Yeah.
So we got in the car, and we were at the hospital by 1 o'clock. And they checked us in. I felt fine, like I didn't have contractions or anything at that point.
The funniest part is that we're sitting here at home, and she's just had, she tells me she's felt a gush of water. I'm like, okay, your water's broken. And then she's like, well, I don't know, because she doesn't want to go to the hospital. She wants to labor at home. She doesn't want to spend the next, 30 hours laboring in the hospital, which sometimes, because when your water breaks, you don't always go into active labor right away. And most of the time, you don't even feel any contractions or anything. So she's sitting here trying to convince me that she has not gone into labor, or that we don't need to go to the hospital. Her water hasn't broken. And I'm pulling the book out on her, reading through it, read the statement to her. And she's like, well, okay, maybe. And she was like, I don't even think I'm leaking anymore. And then goes back in the bathroom and she's like, oh, yeah. Okay, I'm still leaking. I was like, yes, your water's broken. Get your shit together. We're going to the hospital. And it was kind of weird because
amniotic fluid dripping out of you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Too far
But
to die.
it was we've planned for this for a while, right? The car seat was in the car. I had a bag packed. She had a bag packed. We were ready. But it still took us 45 minutes to get out of the house.
Well, we felt like we had time.
Sure.
We definitely felt like we had time. And we had I had convinced her to stay up because I wanted to change my laundry. That was the only reason she was even downstairs. She was like, okay, I'll go to the bathroom. So it was one of those things where she may have, who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have broken right away had she not gone and sat down. But, yeah, we ended up
little
walking
dude
out.
in the background.
Yeah, sorry.
He's there.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, just burping.
Just tell him he needs to be quiet.
Silence.
No, we know. He's got to do his thing. He don't care.
Okay.
No, he doesn't care.
He doesn't.
He doesn't have any
So,
idea
but
what's
it doesn't
going
sound
on.
like it
What's
doesn't
that?
sound like you guys were panicked at all.
No, we actually, it was nice. We got to go very calmly to the hospital. I felt fine. It wasn't like I was screaming in pain or anything like that.
Yeah.
We got
She
checked
could walk,
in.
which is nice.
By the time we were actually in our room, it was probably 2:30. Trev and I tried to sleep. I didn't sleep at all. Trevor slept.
Yeah, they checked us in, and they had to check her because I guess a lot of women come in and they're like, "Oh, my water's broke," and they're like, "No, it didn't," and they send you back home.
Oh.
But so they had to do that. So we probably didn't even get into the laboring room, where you would labor and then deliver the baby, until 2:30, like you said. So. And then they had to put a bunch of monitors on her to check the baby's heartbeat, check her heartbeat. Her pulse was elevated, so they thought.
You mean blood pressure?
Yeah, yes, blood pressure.
I had high blood pressure.
Yeah.
But
So-
Was it because you were nervous?
I don't know what it was. I was probably just nervous, but they got all freaked out about it. I guess it's a sign of preeclampsia, and then they got worried they were gonna have to do it. I don't know. They were just freaking out about my blood pressure.
Well, I think it is something. Preeclampsia is not something that you want.
No, it's like a disease where you have high blood pressure and it's really hard on your baby, and then sometimes you have to have an emergency C-section, and I don't know.
It's dangerous. You don't want it.
But yeah, so we slept, or we tried to.
Yeah, put on some tunes and tried to sleep. I had a nice vinyl covered bench that I got to lay on.
We liked our labor nurse
yeah.
that came in. She was nice. She was
very
very
nice.
talkative. She just kind of
What was
talked
her
about the
name?
whole process, which was good because we were very
Her name was
Tammy. Her name was Tammy.
Tammy, that's right.
We were very wanted to know what was going to happen. How does this work? What are these machines? How do they work? That kind of stuff. So we just got all the information we possibly could. And she was good. We had I don't know, probably around 4, I started having some real contractions that I woke up for, and I mostly just sat cross-legged and swayed through them, but they were fine. It wasn't like that painful at that point. It was just like, okay, I'm not going to sleep through this.
Right.
There's no sense trying.
And at that point, like a few nurses came in, and I think there was a shift change or something like that.
Yeah, at 7 there was a shift change. At that point, I think I was moving into active labor. And,
you were definitely going through pain, serious pain.
Yeah. So this whole time, they're pretty much trying to say, like, if I don't go into labor, they're going to give me Pitocin.
Which is essentially a drug that just induces labor.
Which I really didn't want because I was trying to do natural childbirth, and it makes it more painful. Your contractions come on stronger and faster than what your body is necessarily prepared for. So you just haven't worked your way up to it. So I was really trying to push them off, even though they were trying to give that to me. But in the end, I ended up going into labor all on my own. So it worked out.
Yeah. It was probably about that time when you maybe 5:30 or 6 or something when I got up, I remember. And that's when you really started laboring. You were doing different things, and then she gave you the peanut.
Yeah, I think that was at 7 when the shift change came.
Yeah.
At that point, I was in painful contractions for sure.
And you had those painful contractions for the next 6 hours?
From 7
till noon, probably.
Till noon.
Or 11:40.
To 11:40, yeah.
Dear God.
Everyone says that when you're doing natural childbirth that you are fine. You feel like you can do it until you can't do it anymore, and at that point it's almost done. And that's exactly what happened to me. Towards the end of it was 10. I remember looking at Trevor and being like, I can't do this anymore. I was already planning my escape. And so they had been checking me. And the last time they had checked me, they were like, oh, you didn't make any progress. You're only still 4 centimeters dilated.
And you want to get to 10.
And if
ideally.
you're not further dilated, we're going to give you the Pitocin. And then our nurse left for
2 hours, which what she said, she checked in it was probably 9:30 or 9:15, somewhere around then. And that's when she said, you're 4 or 5, something like that. And she's like, if you don't make any progress, the doctor said, just to give you the Pitocin. And so, this is her OB that's making this decision. He's not even at the hospital. They're just calling him. And he's like, okay, do this. So the nurse is like, hey, we'll give you a little bit of extra time. He said check you in an hour and a half. I'm going to check you an hour 45. And ended up being 2 hours and 20 minutes or something. And meanwhile, I'm trying everything I can to help her, keep her focused. And she's going through a ton of pain. And she's sitting there dancing to Bruce Springsteen on the side of the bed, just trying to focus.
Total jazzercise. When you're doing the step, not an elliptical, but one of those step machines where you're going up and down with your feet.
Uh-huh.
Almost like you're doing stairs. That was
Stairmaster.
my method. I was standing on the edge of the bed, and every time a contraction came, I was listening to the boss, and I was saying, I'm dancing my baby out. I'm dancing my baby out. I'm dancing my baby out.
So I must have a really skewed view of this. From 7 o'clock until you reach 10 centimeters. Centimeters, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
God, that's fucking huge. From 7 o'clock till then, you guys are really just by yourself?
So pretty much, it kind of depends on what your relationship is with your nurse. I think that we came across to them sort of independent, and we knew we were prepared. I had read books, she had read books and articles and everything pretty much that you could read about it.
Trevor had read a book for doulas.
Yeah, I had read...
He had read The Birth Partner, and he was
right,
up on his
which
stuff.
is for midwives and stuff. So, I was ready to help because I knew it was going to be really difficult. It's not... They say childbirth itself is difficult, even with drugs, but without drugs, it's extremely challenging for the woman. And as the person that's helping her, you can't be freaking out. you've got to know what she needs. So, I mean, essentially the hardest part was just keeping her in her rhythm. So like she was saying, she was dancing, and then she would be like, different like sort of chant breathing type things that just focus your mind elsewhere so that you can ignore that, your cervix is essentially stretching wide enough so that you can fit a
Like your
gigantic
stomach
baby
is
out
contracting to push down the baby.
Right.
Your stomach muscles. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
It's
how
crazy.
long were, the bad contractions lasting?
They were coming in
like each one.
I mean, it changed. Like, at 7, they were probably like 3 minutes apart, each a minute. But towards the end, they were right on top of each other, with literally, it felt like no break whatsoever. And that's when it was getting really hard. I guess that's what they call the transition. But the thing is, I didn't know that I was in that last stage.
Because the nurse hadn't come in that long period of time. So, like, she was freaking out. She's telling me, she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. If they come back, like,
And I haven't made any
I'm giving
progress.
up.
I'm totally taking the drugs. Like, this is awful. There's no break. How can they, like, give me Pitocin, eat too? Like, I feel like they're already super strong and they're already on top of each other.
And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I know that she's in a lot of pain, but I don't want to call the nurse in yet because if the nurse comes in and checks her and she hasn't made any progress, they're going to give her the drug. So I want to let her try, And that's what the nurse is thinking too, so she's not coming in to check.
And I also I moved, because like, they had a monitor on me to see like my contractions, and the nurse basically is in a different room, and she's watching the baby's heart rate, and she's watching my contractions. And I had moved my thing, and
She had flipped it the
I
other
had
way.
flipped it the opposite direction, so they were measuring very low. And so I'm like, how can these things be so low? They are so painful. I don't understand. And then I looked at it, and I was like, oh, and I flipped it the right way, and oh man, they were off the chart at that point. I was okay.
They were big. And so then she's standing there, and she's doing her jazzercise to Dancing in the Dark, Bruce Springsteen, and all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I feel like I have to push. I was like, don't push. Definitely don't do that. Like, that's not a good idea. Like, you're standing beside the bed. And
I was like, no, now.
She's like, no, I think I have to push. And I was like, no, it's okay.
Like, well, at least take me to the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of, I don't really like this. And then she said it again, and she's like, I think I have to push. And I was like, all right, I'm going to call the nurse. So I called the nurse in, and I was like, hey, her meter, like, flipped around. Because I didn't want to tell the nurse, like, she feels like she has to push. Because the nurse would have looked at me like, really? No fucking way. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, because most first-time mothers, and they're in active labor for, I don't know, long time, right? 16 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was in active labor for like 24 hours with me, which is a long time. That's longer than normal. But still, I mean, at this point, you had been in active labor for like 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
So it was like, she would never have believed me had I said she feels like she has to push. So I said, her meter's all messed up. She's like, it looks fine in here. I was like, will you just come in and check on it? She's like, okay. She comes in. And she brings in a resident, like not a doctor, not quite a doctor yet. And he's like this young guy with a UK lanyard around his neck. He looks very sort of like fresh-faced type. And he comes in and he checks her. And he kind of looks at the nurse and he's like, you should look at this. Because you should look at this. And she checks her. The nurse then comes over and checks Natalie. And it's like, oh, wow. You cannot push. You're completely dilated. I need to call the doctor. Don't push. Because the doctor needs to be here when the baby comes.
Which is the most painful thing in the world. When they tell you not to push and you want to push. That is awful, I have to say. That's like the worst. I was very annoyed with that.
And is the doctor supposed to be, like, around town within 10 minutes from the hospital at this point? Or is she like, oh, he's at lunch, in Dayton, so I'll call him and he'll be here in an hour?
He was within 10 minutes. But his response to her, saying that I was dilated, was let her push for a while and see how she does. But he still wasn't going to come.
Right.
So we pushed for a while, and it didn't take very long to the point where I was crowning, ready to push out my baby. And she's like, okay, you need to wait again, and we need to do baby pushes. And she called him, and he was on his way. But I had to literally wait an hour.
No, it was not an hour.
It felt that way.
I know. I'm sure it felt like longer than
I
an
hated
hour,
him by the time he got there. Hated him.
I believe it. I hate him right now. Listening to this.
I think the idea is that he was trying to make sure, because you're a first-time mom, it's very unusual that everything had progressed as much as it had. And I think he was expecting it not to go as well. I mean, it is what it is. The guy should have been there, obviously, but at the same time, I mean.
So when he came, it went pretty quickly.
Yep.
A few good pushes, and little Cal was out.
Yep. At that point,
was that the most painful part? The pushing?
No, the transition, the contractions being right on top of each other were the worst, and then when they were right on top of each other and I couldn't push even though I felt like I wanted to, that was the absolute worst. But once I started pushing, it was like relief. Like I could have done that for a long time.
Well, it was really, you gotta like put yourself in the kind of situation where it's like, it has been getting more intense and more intense and more intense all throughout the morning. So in the beginning of the morning, it's like, we could do this. Like, we got this. We're handling them. She is sort of, coping with the pain. It's painful, but she can handle it.
Yeah, I was breathing through it. I felt very good. Every time I had a contraction, I was like, you did a great job. And I'd shake my head, yeah, that was good. Okay. It was fine.
And towards the end, like the last hour or two before she came in and got checked, it was really difficult. They were extremely painful for her, and every time I would say she did a great job, she would just be shaking her head, like really sort of negative, and like I was trying to get her to be positive, and she was trying too, but it's just, it was really, everything had built up to this, it had built up to a head essentially, where if we didn't make any more progress and they didn't come in and tell us like that we were ready, she was struggling.
I see why people take drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I have to say.
Go ahead, Nat.
I was gonna say one more thing. The funny thing is like after Calvin came out and like they put the baby right on my chest and he stayed there. We had skin to skin time, which was awesome, and everything was great with that. I look at the doctor and I say, man, that was not that bad. He's like, yeah, there's something about it. Women say that a lot. The men, we remember. There's something genetic about it. I was just like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Craziness. Definitely sounds like a genetic factor that will lead you to be like, you know what, I should do this again.
I should do this.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about Trev's feeling. I talked about this with Rod on a different podcast. I don't know if you heard it, but after I talked to you on the phone for the first time, Trev, you said that you felt helpless when Nat was in pain. And I made the joke to Rod that for Trevor to not be able to control a situation, that must have been like the worst part. Like the fact that, the love of his life is in the worst pain she's probably ever been in, and you're just sitting there holding her hand. Your stomach's not hurting at all. You don't have any contractions. Like, how did that feel for you, being so helpless?
Yeah, that was really tough. I mean, I have to say, it's like, they say it's one of the hardest experiences you go through as a couple. I would absolutely agree with that, especially for those people that are choosing to, be the number one support person. So, if you hire a doula, then you also have, or a midwife or whatever, you also have that person that is not, she doesn't have any other patients in the hospital. She's just there for you. You pay her, and she comes, or he, generally she, but she would come and then help, and she would do what I did essentially for Nat. But yeah, if you choose to be that sole person, here's the deal: Natalie has the ability to deny whatever treatment they decide to give her. So they cannot give her drugs unless she asks for them. And, we actually had it seems kind of silly, but we had a code word that she had to tell me before I could tell the doctors that it was okay to give her drugs. Because that way she could like yell and scream and say, give me drugs. And
it was the code word that let him know that I had I was done, like I meant it.
Right.
So even though towards the end of the transition period, and I was like, this is awful. I think if I haven't made any progress, I'm taking the drugs because I can't do this. I hadn't used the code word yet.
So I knew that she hadn't fully given up.
So his job was to say, no, you can do this, which he did do,
But that's the hardest part, man, though, because she's sitting there and she's just miserable. And there's literally nothing you can do beyond you just have to use your words and say, you're doing great, remember that you're strong, et cetera, et cetera. And it's, Nat, it's not like she's unhappy and pain a lot. So when she is unhappy and pain, it's really difficult for me personally to deal with, just because I don't know, I like to see her happy, obviously, and it was really, really tough. But it was well worth it because at the end she was so happy.
I felt great, and I felt absolutely great.
Right, she wasn't groggy. There was no offset of the pain medication. Baby was totally awake. And that happens sometimes with pain medication too, but sometimes it doesn't. From my perspective, obviously I don't know what it felt like for Nat. Obviously she said it wasn't that bad, which I would disagree with. But I, in my opinion, from my perspective, it was worth it to do it that way because it was a really awesome experience afterwards. Once my son came out and went, and he was immediately up on her chest, and we got to look at him, and he was awake and moving, and she was awake and totally coherent, and it was like she was back to normal. Nothing had ever happened.
And there was
crazy.
Nothing in my stomach; it just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's just all the serotonin and all those chemicals in your brain just flood your brain and you just forget about anything else.
Yeah, it felt great, and it felt like an accomplishment. Remember when you guys were all here and we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to do natural childbirth. It's feeling this hippie vibe where I just want to be in touch with how women have done it forever, and the way that they do it.
Sure.
And it was great.
Well,
I would do it again.
You went to Eckerd. You went to Eckerd for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I don't think it's really a gross question, but I'm just curious. Do you when the baby's out, do you have to push the placenta out, or does it just kind of come out?
Oh, okay. So that was another reason why I hated this man. Because he just caused me pain. No, I didn't have to push it out. He, pushed on my stomach to push it out. And my stomach was feeling very sensitive at that point in time, but I guess that's how they do it. I was also very distracted because I had this adorable child on my chest.
Yeah.
So, but he pushed on my stomach, and it
And he also pulled on the umbilical cord, which it's still connected to.
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, he did both at the same time. You couldn't see that.
I can't see anything. No.
I could see that. And then when it came out, get ready for Jules to pass out on this one. When it came out, I'm standing there. I'm not scrubbed up. I'm in bare feet and shorts and a collared shirt. Whatever that I'm in that picture that you saw. Yeah. And the placenta comes out, and he kind of it slips out. It's a big slippery sack of food, essentially. And it slips out, and it splashes into this, this bag where all of the baby crap is falling out into, where there's blood in there, because it's a pregnancy, there's blood, and the blood splashes all over the place, and he's like, "Oh, did I get you?"
Oh God!
I was like, "No, I'm fine, thanks."
This doctor just seems like he's a fucking comedian.
He was interesting.
Just rolled in, delivered the baby, rolled out. I don't know.
I think they got to be used to that.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like the dentist. It's like the dentist. They do all the nurses, the dental hygienist does everything. He rolls in on his little rolly stool, looks at your mouth for 1 second, and he's like, all right, peace out. See ya in here.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah.
That's funny. So, you guys didn't know the sex of the baby when you first saw that it was a boy. What was your emotion?
Well, actually, that's kind of funny. So they had asked me beforehand. They were like, "Do you want to call out the sex of the baby?" And I was like, "They were like, what's your plan?" I was like, "What do you mean, what's my plan? Like the baby's gonna come out. I don't really have a lot of control over that." And they're like, "Well, do you want to say it's a boy or it's a girl?" And I was like, "I don't care. Like, I don't know. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not gonna like prevent the doctor from saying it." But it was obvious when he did come out, they weren't going to say anything. They just kind of looked around and like, I mean, they knew what it was right away, and I was still like kind of caught up in the moment. And yeah, I like looked around, looked at it, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely a boy. But I was like, I don't know. It was just so crazy. It was all happening so, so quickly and everything. And yeah, so I like looked at it again. I looked at it again, and I was like, "It's a boy, Nat." And she's like, "It's a boy." I was like, "Yeah, it's a boy." And it was that was pretty emotional. I mean, you guys know me. I'm not really much for crying, but I was tearing up. I was tearing up quite a bit there.
I cried for sure.
Nat definitely cried. I wasn't quite crying, but I definitely.
Did you not cry? Nat, did you not cry up until that point? You didn't cry during the labor at all?
No, I didn't cry during the labor. No.
I don't think there's time to cry during labor.
Well, I mean, I'm so exhausted. I can't do it anymore. I'm losing it. That kind of thing.
Well, that's why Trev was
No, I didn't cry during labor.
I think you can still cry.
I, for the most part, was pretty good about breathing through my contractions. I lost it a couple times, but I got back on track. I pretty much just took really deep yoga breaths. Yoga's awesome. It totally helped.
Yeah.
Totally helped.
Yoga is awesome. We both agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Trev, do you think you would have had the same reaction if it was a girl that came out?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
So it's like it didn't even matter what sex it was.
Not at all. I mean, I know. I love what Rod said last time. Like, I'm definitely sexist. I mean, like, I'm as much of a guy's guy really as you can be. I have very few girlfriends, and I don't. I wanted a son. I mean, I definitely wanted a son. When we first started talking about Nat's pregnant, the first thought in my mind was, I want a son. And as we started talking about it and we decided not to find out, and like part of the impetus in the beginning for not finding out was because we were concerned that I was going to be upset if it was a girl, which I think is, at this point, is ridiculous. I mean, after that was mentioned, I was like, no, like I would never think that. And
yeah,
I still stand by that. Even though it was a boy, at that point, the fact that it was a baby and it was alive, and I mean, that was part of the reason why I didn't focus right away that it was a boy. Like, I was looking at his head as the doctor, because the doctor's got to, they like smack its back and see if it coughs. If it doesn't cough, they immediately try to get as much of the fluid that was in the sac out of his mouth and his nose and everything like that, so that he could breathe. So I was watching the doctor do that, and as he was doing that, and then and then Calvin cried, and I'm like, I was just like mesmerized. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been anything. It could have had 17 legs. I wouldn't have cared. It was mine, ours, and yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was such a cool moment to be a part of. I wouldn't care if I had all girls or all boys or whatever. It doesn't matter. And it was really really cool to find out in that moment. It just added to the whole allure and the surprise of it. And it was really awesome. I definitely wouldn't be like, if it was a girl, I wish it was a boy, or wish it was a girl. No.
Yeah.
No, it's perfect the way it happened.
Well, it did end up being a boy, and you went with Calvin. How long did you guys know that was one of the names you would like to name him?
Like one in
if
the
it was
running?
a boy, yeah.
Let's see. Well, we had a list of probably about 10 names on each side. And then of those...
We were good at narrowing them down.
Yeah, we didn't do too well in the narrowing process. But we had a top 3 or 4 for both a boy and a girl. And we were trying to do middle names for the girl. We knew that the middle name was going to be the same as mine for a boy.
So it made it easier to name him.
Which, made it a lot easier.
We decided we liked it. Grandpa suggested it to us, actually, of all people. He was
My
like, how about the
dad.
name Calvin? And we weren't really taking suggestions from people, but when we heard it, we were both like, oh, we like that.
Yeah. Because at the time, we were really struggling with names. Like, we were going, like, we had maybe 2 boys' names that we really liked. We had a bunch of them that we were okay with, but none that we were like, oh, we really like that.
We have completely different opinions on names, so it was becoming difficult to find ones that we both liked.
Yeah,
it's true.
But we found Calvin, and we liked that name a lot. And, we went and saw Calvin Coolidge's homestead this summer and learned more about him. And not that we named him after the president, but...
Definitely not.
I don't know. It's something that Trevor shares with his grandpa, that quote.
The persistence quote that I've always had on my desk is a Calvin Coolidge quote. We've always sort of had that, my grandfather and I. And then that was the impetus behind the trip.
It passed the doctor test, They say, can you picture a doctor having that name? And there was a president named Calvin, so we felt like it was pretty safe.
I don't remember that test.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doctor test. Like, can your child have a doctor's name? You want to name your child, like, Sunshine and Flowers.
Sunshine and Flowers?
Yeah.
You sure?
It has to look good as a lawyer or a doctor or something like
Sunshine
that.
Knowlton Browning sounds pretty good to me.
Or
I like that I'm like such a nickname person, so immediately just like I love the nickname Cal. Like when you can shorten a name, like I shorten everybody's name, so as soon as I could shorten his name, I was like, oh yeah, that's good.
So speaking of nicknames, I compiled a list of some nicknames.
I like how that immediately came up in the text messages too. You like said Calvin, and then every one of the guys like chimed in with a nickname.
Oh, by the way, Trevor totally let that go on longer just because he was entertained by it.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Oh my god, I told him I was dying. I knew I was like, I know they're busy. I was like, just shut up. But then I was so happy when I found out.
What did Fish say?
Yeah, I wish I could have texted everybody in one massive group. But, the way the iPhone does it, it breaks it out into, like, I don't know, there's, like, groups of 7 or 8 or 10 or something like that. So there were, like, 4 or 5 different groups that got the text, right? So, like, the Sick Bushes all got one. And then, like, I sent one to Fish and Todd and Steven and Bama and Bean and Dan Fleming and James Lance. All these guys, right? And so Fish and Todd and Rob Reinerson are going back and forth, like, about, like, what the child's name is going to be. And it was, like...
Ken Tucker.
Yeah, Ken space Tucker Browning. Another one was some, like, John Calipari Browning, or I don't know.
What was Rob's?
Yeah, Kristen and Allie I was texting them back and forth too, and Kristen said Ken Tucker, and I was like, is that the name? Like, where did you hear that? And they were like, we were like comparing area codes. We're like, who's a 513? Is that Raleigh Durham? Like, is that Fisher? Like, is that it? And we were freaking out. It was funny. We're all psyching each other out.
That was the best part. So Kristen was convinced that his name was like Ken Tucker, and she's so gullible. I mean, oh my gosh, it's just hilarious.
Just lovely and trusting.
Let's see. I have it. I have it here somewhere.
So
yeah,
while you look that up,
Ken Tucker
you
Browning.
found it?
That's right. Yeah. So she goes, "Is that even official?" And then Rob goes, "EWE." So U, and then K Browning, KAY Browning. And Kristen's like, "I think it's official," like da da da. And then I said, "Please welcome the artist formerly known as Prince, Knowlton Browning." And Kristen says, "I'm happy to welcome your baby boy under any name. But now you boys have me second-guessing who is serious and who isn't. Is Knowlton Browning your baby boy's name?"
I'm not going to lie, this is like incredibly embarrassing, but when you did the artist formerly known as Prince, the first thing I looked at was, I was like, did it mess up? Did it autocorrect? And I was like, the artist, is that a name? And I like literally Googled it, and then I was like, oh my god, I am a total ditz. Like, it took me a second, and I was just so frantic to find out that I jumped to horribly stupid conclusions.
Dude, Kelly was going insane. Like, it was the worst 2 days.
Oh my
No,
god.
I'm kidding.
I was really excited.
But seriously, let me talk, because I got 5 nicknames for Calvin. You ready?
All right.
These are a joke, by the way, but I just want to share them. We got Calvatron,
Calvatron,
the Calculator,
The calculator.
Caltech.
All right, a college.
Yep, Calcium.
Oh, I like
And
that
then
one.
my personal favorite, Cali Bud.
Cali Bud.
Yeah.
Like the band, Cali Buds. That's funny.
Or just
the
type of
bud.
weed.
I imagine that Dylan will probably come up with some pretty epic ones. He's good at playing on words, that kind of stuff.
That's true.
I loved the little picture that he sent around, the straight out of Natalie thing.
We showed Carly that last night, and she was like, I want that picture. She totally downloaded it and took it.
Right away.
Yeah, that was funny. I laughed.
So how's it been going since you have been home? Has everything been okay?
Yeah, it's been alright. We kind of had, so when we were leaving the hospital, the last day rather that we were there, his bilirubin was high. His bilirubin is the measure of jaundice, which is like 50 to 70% of the kids of newborns have jaundice. So it was kind of high, and they were like, well, let's keep you here tonight, and then we'll go tomorrow. So in the morning, they tested it again, and it was like right on the line for being released. And they were like, okay, you can go, but tomorrow morning you got to go to the pediatrician, and they're going to test it again. So we went home, everything was fine, then we went to the pediatrician the next day, and they were like, okay, he looks pretty jaundiced, so you go to this urgent care and get a test. So we got the test, and they called us back, and they're supposed to give us this blanket to cure, or to help cure it, because it's like a tanning blanket or something. Anyway, after that whole long thing, our insurance providers, like the 3 people that they used to get the blankets, didn't have any blankets, so we just had to try to feed him as much as we could, because that's how it works. Like, essentially, the more that you feed him and he pees and poops, the more the jaundice will leave. You can also leave him outside for a little bit, like in the direct sunlight, so we did that. But it was a little scary, because it was like, we're trying to get it down, and if you don't get it down, you got to go back to the hospital and stick him under warming lamps. And
he had lost a pound too, and the pediatrician was concerned about that and suggested me giving him a bottle, which I really didn't want to do, which added to my stress level.
It was a stressful
day. I was starving my child because breastfeeding wasn't going as well as I wanted it to at that point.
Right.
So it was scary. It was a little scary.
It doesn't seem very scientific to put your baby in direct sunlight. Like, that's
Well,
pretty funny.
Yeah, the thing is that it's something about the melanin.
It's like the UV rays.
Yeah, the UV converts that into, because when you're in the womb, you have a different kind of melanin that then needs to leave after you're born, is I think how I understand it.
Well, I thought it was like had something to do with the liver not working correctly.
Well, yeah, but the liver has to process that.
Yeah.
The liver hasn't had to work yet. So you have to convert that melanin, and then the liver's got to process it, and then you got to poop it or pee it out.
Gotcha.
So you can kickstart that by putting the child in the sun, I believe.
Is everybody enjoying this lesson
on jaundice?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting.
So, anyways, that's it. We ended up going to the doctor on Saturday, and we got the test results back, and his bilirubin had gone down, which was great, and we felt much, much better.
Yeah.
And then we went into the doctor yesterday, Monday, and his weight was up, so right now he's healthy.
Yeah, he gained 9 ounces, and everything's going well with the feeding. We had a breakthrough day on Saturday, and he just all of a sudden got it, which is good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we're starting to fall into a little bit of a rhythm. I'm still not back at work yet. I'll probably stay this week just because being in the office is no different really than being at home right now. So I'm just kind of staying here and helping out, continuing to...
Yeah, it worked out well because Trev classes don't start until next week, so he had 2 weeks
perfect
off.
timing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
perfect timing.
So how's the bonding experience, Nat? You got that oxytocin flowing?
Try what?
Oxytocin.
Oh, yeah. I love this child so much. It's interesting because, when he came out, I loved him a whole lot, but I think I just love him more and more every day. He's just perfect in every way.
That's awesome.
Nat's gonna cry.
He, I don't know. It's really sweet. You think...
I'm not kidding. She's tearing up.
I don't know. It's weird. And, I think I love Trevor even more having had this as something that we share. It's like this... I don't know. It's amazing. It's really amazing. I'm sleep deprived, and I don't get to sleep really well. But I love him, and he's worth it in every way.
Which is crazy for Nat to say.
How are you feeling, Nat?
Huh?
Sorry, I was just asking how you are feeling, Nat. Your body went through a crazy traumatic thing, so I was just wondering, how you feel. Is your stomach sore? Are you
I actually feel pretty good now. I would say that I was sore for the first couple days, but I feel good. I feel pretty good.
Yeah, she's still on ibuprofen every 6 hours.
Yeah.
800 milligrams.
And a stool softener.
Yes. Stool softener as well. I was going to spare that one for you, but
okay.
That's,
There you go, guys. Enjoy.
Tell everybody about your stools. That's cool.
Nah, we needed that.
Yeah, right?
It's like the first question all the doctors ask.
Yeah.
Dude, Nat, the other day I read that thing that Kristen's mom posted on your Facebook wall, I don't know, a month before you gave birth, and I read it, and I was just, immediately terrified, and I was just oh my gosh, Natalie, are you okay? Are you gonna make it? Have you pooped yet? I'm so worried.
I have pooped. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually feel pretty good. I do. I think I was really tired at first because I just kind of hadn't slept. I pulled that all-nighter the day he was born, and then he didn't sleep well the first night, and we got him circumcised, and he did not sleep well the night after that.
No, sir.
No.
Yeah. Poor little guy.
So if we ever want Nat to hang out all night with us drinking, she just has to go into labor.
Yep. Pretty much.
I think it might have been my only all-nighter ever. Ever.
So that's what's so crazy about how positive she is right now. Not that that she shouldn't be, but she is normally the type of person that needs her sleep, or else beware monsters, demons, gremlins, and so far, she had not been getting very good sleep, much worse than me, and I'm tired, and I generally function pretty well without much sleep. So I think the fact that she's so positive and upbeat and alert, one, it's the chemical balance of her body right now, but two, it's
Moms
just
are super women. That's what.
yeah, sure, that's what it is.
Just kidding.
Very good. Well, guys, I gotta wrap this up because I gotta get going. But I mean, if you guys want to keep talking with Kel, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, it's fine. If we got more stuff to talk about, sure.
Do you have any more questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm happy that we got to chat and that we're the baby's here, but we're still all together and keeping this thing going, which is good. And I'm glad that the new sick bush Cal he's officially recorded on this podcast. We've heard him a couple of times, so I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess we're not getting EC tennis t-shirts, Kel. Because it's a boy.
What? Me? Oh, I know.
Yeah.
If it was a girl, I guess we would have had to make some just for us.
I know. I remember you saying that when you guys were here.
Yeah.
I do have one story that I have to share that I think everyone will appreciate. It was about when we were at the doctor yesterday. It's pretty quick, Ty.
Okay.
We were at the doctor yesterday, and we set him down on the examination table, and the doctor's like, all right, go ahead and, strip him down, adjust the diaper. I was like, all right, so I took his little suit off, and I've got him there, and I'm like, all right, I think he's taking a shit, so I, look in there, and sure enough, he's taking a little shit, but it wasn't, huge. I was like, do you want me to change him, or, you guys gonna look down there? I don't really want to mess with him if you guys don't need to. And she was like, well, we might. I was like, all right, I'll just change him. So I take his diaper off, and I'm looking in there, and he farted. He looks like he's gonna fart a little bit, and I'm like, oh, and I kind of cover the diaper back up a little bit, and I let him do his thing. I'm like, okay, you're done, and I bring it back. He was not done.
He got him.
He pooped all over me. Spray poop.
It was liquid.
Yeah.
It was a super soaker right at him.
Yeah, liquid brown, stringy, oily, all over my hand, and so I'm like, all right, and surprisingly enough, I was not that pissed about it. I was just kind of all right, whatever, and then so I'm like, okay, you got me, good job, and I clean him up, put him in a new diaper. We weigh him, and then he doesn't really being poked by the doctors. I mean, surprise, surprise. So I picked him back up after he was done, and I'm kind of holding him, trying to quiet him down. And all of a sudden, I feel my t-shirt's just getting soaked. And I'm like, what is going on? Because he's in a diaper. There's no way for him to pee on me. But he
managed
somehow managed to pee outside of his diaper, which I had secured tightly on him. And so he's peed. So I'm in the doctor's office. I've got poop on my arm.
Sneaking out.
I know.
It wasn't a little bit either. I mean,
it was a lot.
He had a good sized spot on his shirt.
I got poop on my arm. I got pee all over my chest. I'm like, what else can you do to me?
I guess it's time to get bigger diapers.
Probably. And then we're standing there, and she's talking to us, and I'm kind of still holding him. And then he spits up on me. I was like, all right, I've hit for the cycle. I got the trifecta. I got I got pissed on, shit on, and thrown up on, all in one 10-minute sitting.
Yeah, there's nothing else he could throw at you.
Mm-mm.
Maybe he could
or
sneeze
so
on
you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if he just put boogers all over you, that'd be...
Yeah. Next time.
That's the true cycle.
I was gonna say that's in a couple months, right?
Yeah, probably.
Well, he's like a loose cannon. Whenever I take his diaper off now, I'm like, oh, what are you doing down there? What do you got for me?
I'm glad we did this. This is great. And anybody who wants to hear the birth story can just listen in.
Exactly. Yeah. That way you guys don't have to repeat it 400 times.
Even though I'm sure you've already done that.
Too late. Yep.
Just with family. I haven't
Very
really
cool.
called anybody or done anything. I've just been too tired.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. But
so we're really excited that you guys are as of now coming in September. So we're very looking forward to that and meeting little Cal.
yeah,
Yeah,
us
it'll
too.
be great.
I think we
Be
booked our
awesome.
hotel today.
We did.
So
Awesome.
we're coming. Yes, we are.
Good. All right, guys. Well, you good? Kel doesn't have any more questions, and neither do I. You got anything else you want to say?
I don't
No?
think so. I think that's about it.
That's it.
Oh, he was born to Grateful Dead's American Beauty.
Yeah, Trevor put on Grateful Dead, so
That's important. That's
That's
important.
funny.
Does that happen to be a 45-minute song that you could just
Oh
put
no,
on
it's an
it?
album. It's an album.
It's an
I just
album.
had it played.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
you're
he
so
heard first. Trevor's starting him early.
Hippie.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever.
very good. well, thanks for coming on with us. I've been wanting to get you guys on, and this is the perfect opportunity for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Keep the pictures coming, and keep us updated as the milestones happen.
Okay, we'll
Will
do. Will
Yeah.
do. He's already turned on his side. So
Yeah.
he's changing quickly.
He's got massive hands and feet.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And then next he'll stop scratching his eyes out, right?
Oh, he's already doing that.
Yeah, he's doing that. We got little gloves for
No, I
him,
mean
but
stop.
Oh, next he'll
Oh.
stop. Yeah. Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's good talking to you. We'll talk to you soon. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too. Talk to you later.
Love you guys and love little Cal.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tell the
See you
little guy
guys.
we love
Will do. Will do.
him.
Whenever he
All right,
wakes
guys.
up.
We'll talk to you later on.
All right. See
Bye.
ya.
I've spent too long away from home. Did all the things I could have done. Gone all the days of endless thrill. I know I'm not the only one. So long, I'm going home. I saw the streets alright with you balconies and the laundry line. They tried to make me welcome there, but their streets did not feel like mine. So long, I'm going home. oak trees in the open light. Forget about the things you won't be thankful for. What all you got. So long, I'm going home. So long, I'm going home. So long, I'm going